I'm Lucy. I was at the last tents before the eviction, and I'm at the current ones that are about to be evicted again in a couple days. There was a huge rainstorm this morning and yesterday, and now we have to be moved again. It's stressful. It's really hard having to prepare when you're feeling weak and drawn out, and I think it's almost a tactic that they keep us running around moving things, because if we're so occupied doing that, we're not doing anything else.
And when you were at the last encampment on Fifth Avenue, after I had interviewed you that time, something happened. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it was shortly after. I would say it was maybe about 20 minutes to an hour after we had that interview. The food kid came. We were trying to stay warm because it was really cold out, and we were in one of the tents with a propane heater. The sergeant had came over and asked us if we had everything out of the tent that we needed. We said, yeah, except for ourselves and the heater, because we were trying to stay warm. He told us to stay put and left because he was going to go with the resource workers. And 2 minutes later, the bulldozer came and smashed into the tent and was trying to clear the tent while we were in it. It was terrifying. It was really terrifying.
What was that like? What happened? Can you describe?
Well, we were sitting there eating lunch, and all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, we just heard the boom, and it just threw me across the tent. It was like 4.5 feet that I flew. I mean, I landed like right in front of the propane heater, and I just kept yelling, propane tank, because I didn't want it to blow up. I mean, that was really the worry I had about the propane tank. But the Somali guys really didn't know what was going on or why they were doing it. They had told us to stay put, so it was frustrating because it was like, why are you going to tell us to stay here and then take the bulldozer to it? I was hurt. I eventually, 4 days later, I went to the emergency room. I was at the hospital for 3 days, just exhausted and hurt. It was really hurt and a lot of pain from the impact of all of that.
And jumping forward a little bit, this rainstorm that's happening right now and the eviction that's coming in 2 days, what are some unique challenges in encampments with maybe the mud or some ways?
It's really muddy. Everything's muddy. Everything's wet. Things are falling apart. You got to leave a lot of stuff behind because it's too heavy to carry with, or not even worth it to dry it out. So it's a renewal, you got to just kind of shed everything that you don't need and hope that you get more stuff, But the shelter people never came to pick me up. They told us they had us wait till 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and they never even came to pick us up. It was really, really cold outside. I mean, I believe that had something to do with my hospitalization too, was being forced to stay out in the cold,
And I have a question for a lot of people. The first 2 things I hear from people that are very anti-encampment, I guess, is about drugs or just addiction in general, and about employment. You've mentioned you don't use drugs. What can you say to people that's where their mind first goes?
Well, they're just they're just a bunch of druggies, and it's a lot of these people have a lot of emotional pain, and a lot of healing that needs to be done. It's hard to heal when you have nowhere to heal. It's hard because I've had to reverse overdoses, and that's hard because you love somebody but you don't want them to die. A lot of times people just want to escape the rat race, the struggle of everything that we have going on. A lot of people would be off of drugs if they could have a home or have a place to be. I think a lot of times it's their only go-to because it's all they have. It's their only coping mechanism.
And lastly, you had just mentioned a couple things about kind of a tough subject, understandably, but just shelter and wishing you had shelter, that you could be reunited with your kids
Yeah, I mean, I sought shelter with my kids 4 times and was turned away. You know, I mean, my kids have been on and off homeless, and it's hard because my kids have always worried about me being outside and if I'm safe, or where I'm at. You know, they don't know if I'm cold or if I'm hungry or if I'm hurt. You know, and that's a big burden on kids. You know, but then for them to be, you know, faced with homelessness is really hard too, because you know, my 18-year-old, she, you know, has been on and off homeless. Her dad's kicked her out a couple of times. You know, the housing instability isn't always about the money thing. It's about, you know, personal conflicts and family controlling people and taking things from them. And, you know, it's hard because we all deserve a home, you know. It's just because we're houseless doesn't mean we're heartless. You know, and I mean, there's not really that many places to go. I mean, there's not a shelter that you could just come and go as you please. It's really day to day. It's you got to carry all your stuff with you everywhere. You got to check in at, you know, 7 o'clock and leave at 5 a.m. And that's really, it sounds exhausting too.
You mentioned, what was the number of beds available during that eviction?
The eviction, there was 4 beds for women and none for men.
Was that countywide, or was
I believe it was countywide, yeah. But nobody else really wanted to, because I mean, a lot of people just go, well, if I go to shelter, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to try to fight me or rob me or take my stuff or you know, find them. You know, a lot of us are nomadic for our own personal safety. We've got to hide from people sometimes, and it's terrifying, you know, that like the only place to help is going to be where a lot of people are enemies of you, or, you know, just people are trying to get your stuff, you know. I know in LA they do some guaranteed income, you know, the $200 a month that we get off of, you know, the food MFIP or whatever is, I mean, it goes really quick. I mean, how do you pay rent for a whole apartment off of $200? You know? So by the time we get our money, it's just our resources are all so low that it goes so fast because we need everything again. I mean, it's been hard for me to even get a tarp since the last eviction. People have tore my tent apart, and it's taxing. It's emotionally draining, you know?
One more last question.
Mm-hmm.
If there's anything that people could do to help who are watching this on Thursday's eviction, like supplies or to be there, like, is there any advice, or is there
hands? I mean, hands, just extra hands, sometimes to hold things or carry stuff, or you know, the tarps are always nice, but after the eviction, you know, we need all new everything, even, you know, again. Yeah, it's just hard not knowing where we're going or what we're going to do. We wish we had a plan, but there's not really any way to plan for it.
All right, I'm wishing you safety.
All right, thank you.